who's coming in to make a presentation? Okay. Okay, colleagues, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Our regular council meeting of October the 12th. And begin with our land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the treaty and traditional territory of Mississauga and Ashbeck. We offer our gratitude to the First Peoples for their care for and teachings about our earth and our relations. May we honor those teachings. Please observe a moment of silence so that council staff and members of the public can quietly reflect on our duty to the community we are trying to serve. Thank you, colleagues. Members of the public, staff, presenters, and members of council, please be advised that meetings are broadcast and recorded and made available on the internet. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? Madam Clerk, I'll declare on item G3. That's what I have been declaring on since we discussed that matter. Okay, we'll move to the minutes. We have the minutes from September the 21st, 2021. Is there any questions? Thank you, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Anita. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move immediately to our deputation. So we have a deputation from Doug Simmons. I think Doug is just getting ready. It's the letter that Peter wrote. Yeah, or correspondence number 3. No, correspondence. Hello. We're all set, ready for you. If you want to just take the mic. Yep. And you can remove your mask when you're speaking. And their delegation is for 10 minutes, and then we'll turn it over to council if they have any questions.
Okay, perfect.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, I'm here along with Joe Smith to address the issues of the Airbnbs that have popped up in the township and around other areas, I guess. So I'm going to start out by wondering why in the last 3 years people complain about these Airbnbs. Nothing has been done. Take a person that lived at 515 Gifford Drive. She was forced, not forced, but she sold her house because of it. She's a nurse practitioner, works in Brickmart. So bad that after so many times of complaining, she told her insured after the Airbnb when she complained. Another one on Delhaven Drive, same thing. It got so bad he sold his house in Ennismore again. And then the one down on Lakeside Drive, where the young man was killed or died drowning. That was an Airbnb that he was at. And they supplied a boat, and he was out of the boat. Lost his life. And that was almost 3 years ago. Nothing being done. You would think when that happened, council would have jumped on that and said, we gotta do something. And then it goes on that these are not people that come in and rent for a week or for a month. It's a daily rental. And sometimes it's 2 nights. The odd time it's 3. I think once this summer it was 1 full week. And of course, as soon as they get there, they start partying. The party doesn't end at 11 or 12 o'clock. It goes on to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. One instance, they were lighting fireworks off at 2:15, and again at 4 o'clock. And then they took the remnants of the fireworks and put it on people's laneways. So a bed and breakfast, you have to send out a notice to us to inform us about a bed and breakfast going on. Difference with a bed and breakfast, you have somebody on site that controls what goes on. With an Airbnb, the closest person is in the Greater Toronto area. They're not there to, look after their property or whatever. No supervision. Well, then it goes on from there. Do we have a definition of Airbnb? As far as I know, we do not have a definition of Airbnb. So, okay. Definition of a bed and breakfast is a person comes for one night, the people that own the place supply breakfast in the morning and away they go. You have supervision. We have no supervision. We have loud noise, dogs barking all night long, car horns going on. And again, this isn't a once a week issue. I'm not going to tell you it's every night, but it's at least every second night or third night. Every time you have a new party in there, it starts all over again. And to have phone in and complain, who do you phone? You phone the police, they do not want to respond anymore. I have it on my phone right now about the one person who phoned in on the 1st or the long weekend of September. I was going to say the 1st September, that would have been the 6th of September, I believe, or 5th or whatever. And the officer, whose name was Dunn, told him there's nothing he can do about it. They want to be drunk and carrying on, nothing to do. Maybe he should sell his house. 30-year resident of Ennismore, and they want him to sell his house because we have people carrying on like a bunch of young fools. Basically what it boils down to. And then I checked into some other areas. There's 2 townships up in the Muskokas that have banned Airbnbs. And I've heard lately that they can't do that. Well, they did it, and it's in force right now. Collingwood, for instance, has passed another law that, or another, not a law, but in the township, a rule, you can't rent for less than a month. So you have a piece of property on the lake, it has to be rented out for a month, end of game. That's it. And they're getting away with it. They have eliminated the Airbnbs in that area. The one instance at 515 Gifford Drive, they actually had it up on the website that the lady was a witch. They had careful the witch next door. That's how the Airbnb listed. Now, what a thing to say. This young lady has to get up and go to work every day. And she's a witch. Now, her complaining didn't seem to do much with council here, with the township. Rob Lamar apparently helped her a bit. She got more advice from the fire department than she did from anybody else. Apparently, there's a couple of rules that can come in where if you have a lot size less than 100 feet, you can't have a fire on your property. And that's how she was able to eliminate some of them, because she would phone the fire department, they'd come put the fire out. Of course, they put the fire out, everybody gets mad and they go in the house. So this has been going on, like I say, that I've known about for almost 3 years. And trespassing issues, dogs barking, it's a fenced area, so they bring their dog, just let it run on the fenced area, barks all until they decide to bring it in, whether it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. Loud music. And when they check in, it's usually late in the afternoon, evening, and they bring their own food. They set their horns off, they're all ready to party, and it's not like one or two people. It's like 7, 12 people there in this one thing. And the lady, like, they're charging $1,000 a night. So you can bet it's not one guy coming in there and spending $1,000 a night. It's a group of people. On the September long weekend, I think it was the September long weekend, they had 7 cars in the laneway. And then about 10 boats pulled in. And they had this huge party that went on all night long. Yelling, bring in another beer, you know. And after a while, it gets annoying. Sound travels on the water. And who do we phone? We phone the police, and they say they don't want to be bothered. I understand we have security that's driving around. I don't know if that's the answer or not. As soon as they see them coming, they quiet up. But as soon as they see the police coming, they quiet up, and they start up again. And I'm sure somebody's going to bring up the fact, well, there was a big party there last weekend. It was a wedding. It's one-time deal. Whether it's right or wrong. This is wrong, and it should be addressed. In one way or another, there's got to be something that can be done. People's nerves are on edge. I hope I got everything. I think I touched on just about everything, and we're looking for answers. We want some feedback. It's all right to say, well, you phone your counselor. If the counselor doesn't have all the information, we want feedback. We want to know where it's going. Is this something that you just want to brush under the table or whatever? It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. We need more information coming back to us, and we want to know how we can address it. Am I saying the lady shouldn't be able to rent her place? No, but it should be controlled. They should have control of the situation. They live in the greater Toronto area. I know she did offer her phone number up in September, and the person refused to take it. I wish she had left it with me. I just phoned her at 4 in the morning. I've got no phones with them. I've done it before. Phone somebody at 4 in the morning and say, hey, what's there? But then she's not going to drive down here and be able to control it. Somebody should be on site and have to control it. My suggestion here is it should be treated as a B&B, where they have to have, the neighbor has to have knowledge of it and put our 2 cents worth to whether we should allow it or not. Because the way it's going right now, it's out of control. And again, talking with somebody tonight, it's just not different throughout. It's all over. And everybody's having the same complaints. It just goes on and on and on. Being on the water, especially at nighttime, noise terror. You know, 10 minutes up there.
You got 30 seconds.
Pardon?
You have 30 seconds left.
30 seconds left. Well, I hope you have a good evening. I hope you get back to something that we can take back to the rest of the neighborhood.
Okay. If you want to just wait for a couple of minutes, don't run away, because counselors are going to want to say something. But I think as well, Rob, was there a report that was produced that you'd want to speak to?
Yeah, I can, and that's actually a report that Chris Tassone, our bylaw enforcement officer, put together. It's more specific to what's going on at 343. Mr. Simmons kind of discussed a lot of had a number of general concerns about the bed and breakfast or the Airbnb activities that I can speak with. But in terms of the issues related to 343, Council, I believe Chris is online if he had some specific questions about the report that he drafted. But essentially, what he's noted here is that, you know, we are aware of what's going on at 343. We've coordinated with the police, as is our policy, and I'll get into how we got to develop the policy that we developed a little bit later. But it really hinges on cooperation with the police and with our own bylaw enforcement staff, and it's a system that we developed that would ensure that the landowner, not just the tenants and those people who are hooping it up at the bed and breakfast, that the actual owner also is affected by the bad behavior of their tenants. So essentially, if we can corroborate that there's an ongoing problem, a violation of our noise bylaw or the fire bylaw, then we can charge an inspection fee of $250 for the essentially the second offense. The first offense is they get a warning. From that point, that fee doubles, right? So the next time we attend and we corroborate that there's a problem, it's a $500 fee to the landowner. Right? And the next time it's $1,000 to the landowner. The thought there is that at some point the landowner is going to have to behave differently, or certainly pay closer attention to the people that they rent their facilities to, because it's going to get fairly expensive for them. Now that policy was developed after a considerable amount of debate. We convened a committee of both just general public, people who had been disturbed by neighboring bed and breakfast Airbnbs, as well as people who were in the industry of providing Airbnbs. And we thought of, we looked at different ways of controlling the industry. I certainly wouldn't characterize what we've done as nothing. We really did put a lot of thought into what we could do that was reasonable and that would have, some success, or we thought would have some success. And as it relates to 343, we have sent her a bill for $250 because our third party bylaw enforcement officer did attend a week or so ago and did witness that there was noise. And so that triggered, that was the second time that we had noted a problem. And so that triggered the initial inspection fee. So there's a letter and an invoice that went off to the landowner. And again, advising her that the next time we attend and corroborate within a 1 year period, like next year, as long as it's within a year of the offense, it'll be a $500 charge, right? And if that carries on, it'll be $1,000. As I said, at some point, that's going to have to sink in, right? But it does require that we get good cooperation from the police. And if what you're hearing from the police is less than what we think should be given to you, which is, yes, we'll attend as soon as we have an officer available. That should be the response. And then, when the officer attends and notices a problem, the idea is that they would communicate with us and let us know that they may have sanctioned whoever was creating the noise. And then it's our job to sanction the landowner. So that's, again, we will be meeting both Chris Tassone and I. Chris is our bylaw enforcement officer, are meeting with the OPP at their next OPP, the next board meeting, just to go over our expectations and just to reinforce the way that the system is intended to work, and to ensure that we carry on and get good cooperation. It goes both ways. The intent is to communicate the kind of difficulties we're having and what they're experiencing as well. So again, this is our attempt to try to ensure that those Airbnb operators who aren't mindful of who they're renting to, there's a consequence, right, to their actions, with a view to curtail the behavior. Right, we know that there are a number of Airbnb operators, and I know that the majority of them are operating well enough that I don't really hear a lot about them, because they're careful about who they rent to. But there's the odd one that clearly is interested more in earning a profit than they are about the impact that they're having on their neighborhood. And so, which is why we developed the system that we have. It's not as though we can't revisit that if it's not working, but I guess we're hoping that it will at least curtail some of the problems we've seen with a few of the operators.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Donna?
Yeah, thank you. Through you. Thanks to Doug and Jill for attending tonight. I've talked to you both, especially Jill, or on email several times. And I know it's a slow process, but it is a process. And like Rob explained, things are happening. The one fine has been issued, and if they attend more times after this, it multiplies. But also there's pending action from the health unit, and there are 3 issues. Can't talk specifically about the issues, but there's 3 issues that the health department will be addressing with that property owner as well. And so that has been initiated. And I don't know exactly when the changes will be made, but there will have to be 3 changes made on that property. So we have been doing some things. And I also believe that the CAOs, and Janice will be listening here, and she could confirm it. But I think the CAOs in all 8 municipalities have been talking with the county to see how Airbnbs are being handled in other municipalities and can be handled, and if there's anything else that we can put into place that would be helpful. Maybe Janice could confirm that. I have heard that.
Yes, Donna, that is correct. So we do have a meeting scheduled where that is going to be discussed. And that's first week of November is when that meeting is being held.
And that's with all CAOs in all 8 municipalities and the county?
I can't confirm that everyone is going to participate, but at least 6 of the local municipalities will be participating, as well as the county.
Okay, so that would be good, because then there'd be a consistent plan over at least 6 municipalities and the county. So that would be helpful too. So that's, I think, pretty much what we've done so far, unless Chris Tassone has more to offer. He does have a report here, as Rob has alluded to, but I think Rob explained most everything in his report. He is our bylaw enforcement officer.
My only question is, why should they be licensed like the B&B?
Well, I think that's what the CAOs will probably be discussing. If they can put in a licensing system, is that correct, Rob?
Yeah, for sure. And that's one of the options that the committee considered, the committee that was convened to kind of consider the whole issue of a way forward to address the Airbnb, some of the problems associated with Airbnbs. And we looked at a variety of different solutions. This is what we landed on was the penalties for infractions to common bylaws that are at issue. And we looked at other potential options, and that is one where the municipality could consider a licensing program with associated fees. Just wasn't something that we thought was appropriate at the time when we reviewed it, Mr. Chair. Perhaps that'll be the outcome of the debate that's going to take place with the local municipalities in the county. I don't know, but it is, it's if we're going to take that on, of course, there's implications to doing that. And we'd have to be prepared to ensure that we had sufficient resources, right, to accomplish that whole licensing program. But it is, I guess, to answer the question, it is an option that some municipalities have chosen.
Gary?
Through you, in talking to you out in the parking lot
Yeah.
briefly there, and then seeing you, and here you can see the emotion in you, and I feel for you. I really do. I couldn't imagine it being beside me. However, as we discussed out there, if there's a way for somebody to make $1, they'll come up with every excuse going. Again, like I said, my uncle, my aunt, my brother, my cousin, they'll figure out a way to do it. The only way to get people's attention is to hit them in the pocketbook. I sat on that committee that Robert was talking about with the Airbnbs, and to be honest with you, I think we made a mistake. I think we're not hitting them hard enough. We upped it from what it was before to the 250. So I think, and Janice, when you guys are having your discussions there, right now we're at 250, 500,000, 2,000, reset the clock after the year. No reset. I think that's our mistake here. So now, and I would suggest to 500, and I'd like to see if council would be willing, something come back to us on this at 500, 1,000, 2,000, and then it's 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. So let's say you get 3 groups in there for the week for 2 days, and all 3 of them act up. Now it costs you $6,000. So you take whatever, let's say you rent it for $4,000, just cost $2,000 to put these people in your house. Now you have their attention. Once it starts costing them money, now you got it. Forget this reset the clock. I think that's where we went astray. Is doing that. So you got to hit them. The other thing, so I'd like to see if council's willing and see something about that, a discussion, at least somewhere down the road here, because I think it's, it's getting out of hand at these 4 or 5 spots where we've got hot button issues. The other concerning thing, you mentioned about some officer done, and you said you've got it. Have you got a video or a voicemail? Is that what you said you've got?
Of the police officer
Yeah.
that called back, I have a text that was sent over from the person that did it.
Okay,
Yes, I can read it to you, but.
no, that's fine, but you don't have
basically-
anything from this officer done,
His name is Officer Dunn.
but you don't have anything. Yeah,
I beg your pardon?
you don't have a voicemail from him directly,
No.
right? No?
No, mine's third hand, so
Okay.
I'll be up front.
So I may suggest to Counselor Ballantyne at your next police services, maybe bring it up and see.
I think Rob said that was.
Oh, did you? Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, other than that, I'd like to see something. So that's basically what I want to do for you, is rethink this thing and maybe make it a little harsher, because I don't think it's, I think it's working.
Sherry?
Thank you, through you. I also was on the short-term rental committee. That's what it was called, because it isn't just Airbnbs. There are some legitimate business owners out there that rent cottages on a routine basis, and they make sure that the people they rent to are not people that are going to cause the hoopla that happens with Airbnbs. But you can't paint a broad brush over everyone, because it would affect this group as well, which are bona fide business owners that have been for years renting cottages in our township. I agree that you have to hit them in the pocketbook. I would be interested to hear what our CAO has to say about that, because I think that was a bit of the conversation that was around the table at the time. We wanted to make it even higher, but the suggestion that came back was this. I'm curious, if you've been having these problems for 3 years, why is this the first charge we're laying?
That's why I'm asking. It's been reported over the last 2.5
To who?
years.
To who?
I was told it was reported to the township, to Rob Lamar, and I hate to point out to Rob Lamar, that was done by Michelle. I'm gonna give you her maiden name because I can't think of her married name, Michelle Hawthorne, who lived at 515 Gifford Drive, and she gave me permission to use her name. She's a nurse practitioner at Rich North Pharmacy, where we call her. And she said it got so bad that they labeled her on the website as the witch next door. She told me that personally.
Okay.
And she said you could pull it anytime. And if I could just make 2 quick points, and I know I'm not supposed to. The one point I missed on was the fact that the police were called for search for a missing woman at 4 o'clock in the morning. And they found her on the next door neighbor's deck, drunk. What would have happened if she fell off that deck and got hurt or worse, died? Whose insurance pays for that? It would have been the neighbor next door who would have been held responsible for her well-being, this property. That happens whether you're at home farm or whatever. Somebody gets on your property, that's that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I just wanted to say something regarding Deputy Mayor Senas. This one particular, I forget what the address is in Gifford, but it's the one that's the chronic complainant this year has only been running for this year. It hasn't run in previous years. So some of these other ones that have been thrown in are not the really bad one that has sprung up this year. This is the first
Well-
year. What is it, 834 or something, Gifford?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. And
Yeah,
the
that's
thing is,
the main one.
yeah, Steve Ford, I don't know what to say, he's very emotional. The ball was going around his property all the time, and he did throw it back, and then when he didn't, and when he didn't, they called the police. Guess who got handcuffed and put in the back of the cruiser? It wasn't the renter, it was Steve Ford, who's lived there for 30 years. The other issue you're talking about, you haven't heard anything. Well, I was told personally that Michelle, and again, I'll use her maiden name, Hawthorne, she's married to a doctor, I can't think of the doctor's name. phoned a million times to the township. And she was finally met somebody in the fire department through her work, and they said, phone us, the lot's under 100 feet, and they have a bonfire, we'll come. And that's what she did. And finally, people just got renting it out over that fact. They couldn't have a bonfire. So once the bonfire went out, the party kind of got put out, and they moved indoors. Excuse me. Like Michelle said, I have to get up every morning at 6 o'clock and go to work. And if there's a party every night or every second, I'm not getting any sleep. And this isn't a party that goes on till 11 o'clock and then it stops. This is loud music going to 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I say loud music, I mean loud music. And then you talk about blind. Then we have a neighbor whose daughter's getting married. So what do? Do we have him charged too because his daughter's getting married and he told an outdoor wedding on his bike? But it's a one-time deal. This isn't a one-time deal. I agree with what you're saying about the fine. It should be raised, like $200, nothing to this lady who's getting $1,000 a night. Like that's $7,000 a week if she's renting every night. She has rented by the week. I'm not gonna deny that. I believe it was only once that somebody moved in for a whole week, and that's $5,000.
I'm gonna ask Jerry for a comment and then we're gonna, okay, Donna?
I just wanted to ask Tanya, should we make a motion to investigate the fine fee for Airbnbs?
Can I make a suggestion, Donna, just before you do that? Because I just wanted to summarize, and I'm just going to make a
Okay.
suggestion because there's a number of things here that were mentioned. So I think we should, first of all, receive the delegation. And then second of all, direct staff to undertake a review based on some of the things that we heard today. So one of them, Rob already said, was to talk at the Police Services Board. That's number one for that particular issue. Number two was to have the CAO report back to council after she has the meetings that are being generated at the county with any kind of ideas that we may want to adopt here at the township. And three, I think we want to ask staff to come back with a report on the fine structure and seeing whether the amount or the escalating clause, whatever you want to, is appropriate or the most appropriate. And four, if there are any other suggestions that they may have to try to address it. And so we put something in place. We've got folks saying it doesn't appear to be working. So I think it's reasonable for council to take a look and see what else might be possible or what we may want to amend about what we adopted at first. So would you be comfortable with that?
That sounds good.
So why don't you make that?
I would make that motion.
Because I'm not allowed. And second it by Sherry. Yes,
I just want to add, I think it's difficult for people to try and sift through our website to find out what they have to do or where they have to go to deal with noise complaints. And if this seems to be an issue that is percolating through our township, perhaps we should have a specific piece that speaks to how you deal with noise complaints and what can come as a result of them.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. Certainly the clerk's department has made quite an effort to try to ensure that certainly the Airbnb owners are aware of their obligations, right? So there's that, what to do if you're an owner of a bed and breakfast. Here are your obligations. It's a 11 by 17. The idea behind that is it kind of summarizes all the rules that apply in the township, and the intent is that they put that on the door in the building so that whoever's renting it understands that there's a limit to what they can do on the property. It has 911 information as well and just safety stuff, but the whole idea behind that is to make sure that there's no, not that ignorance is an excuse, but that they can't be ignorant of what the requirements are. Here they are. In addition to that, we've got what to do if you're being disturbed, right? There's another poster that we put together. These are all available on our website. And it's got all of the phone numbers for the police, the township, the Peterborough Humane Society, and when to call them and what numbers you should be using, right? And for what infractions, right? So if it's noise on the water, if it's a fire, if it's general noise in the building, here are the different agencies to contact and hear other members. So that's all available on the website. We try to make it obvious, but and Ange and her staff do a pretty good job of trying to ensure that people can get to it relatively quickly on our website.
So we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you very much. And
I got just 2 more points. Should we be kept posted to what's going on?
I was just going to say that once it comes back to council, we will be able to inform you, and you're welcome to attend the meeting that we're discussing it at as well.
And who do we told if they're like, I hear you have security that's been driving around the township.
Rob?
Well, yeah, certainly if you have a complaint after the fact, right? While it's happening, then, if there's a noise complaint after hours, you would talk to the police, right? And hopefully you'd get the right response. During hours, when we're in business or when our business is open, then yeah, you would call the township. Or the following day, right? If you wanted to let me know what you experienced and why it was a problem, then yeah, you call me and we can have a chat, discuss what you experienced, right? And I need to know that as well, right? Because yeah, I need to know what's happening in the township in order to respond to it. Yeah, and if it's a complaint about maybe an unsafe fire, then yeah, I could send you a link to that. All the data that's available on our website that talks about who to call when, but it really depends on the circumstances to who and when you call. Like a dog off leash, you would call the Humane Society.
You or something.
Got to spell down as well.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I find that your website is very outdated. The last time I used the small animal number I had was not listed, and I told my counselor and we were quite discussing on it. Found out that after the theater, but we had no return phone call. If you recall, I phoned at 8:30, exactly 8:30 in the morning, left a message, and at 4:15 that afternoon, I still did not have a return call. 20 minutes before, I did, only because the counselor was phone. But I by that already figured out who it was. So I think your website is a little outdated. Maybe it has been brought up to date.
Well,
This really just happened this past May or so.
okay. Well, we'll take a look at that while we're taking a look at the
I'm
other
not
things.
just talking small animals, so
No, I know you've talked about the whole access to where to.
make sure that the numbers are, they're the ones that we can get.
Good point. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Okay, colleagues, we'll now move to our public meeting section for, I believe we're dealing with 5 zoning bylaws. And Per, did you want to make your formal announcement of the public meetings?
Thank you, Your Worship. So yes, the Township of Selwyn is holding a public meeting to consider 5 applications to amend the zoning bylaw for the Township of Selwyn in accordance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. The prescribed notice of public meeting was provided by prepaid first-class mail to all residents within 120-meter radius of the property, subject to the applications, as well as by way of a sign posted on each of the properties. The notice was provided via email to the prescribed ministries and agencies. The notice is also available on the township's website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township before each of these bylaws is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decisions of the council, the township to the Ontario Land Tribunal, nor can a person or a public body be added to a party to a hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So the first amendment is C11-21. This is at 1592 9th line. Just by way of brief introduction, all 5 zoning amendments tonight are as a result of conditions to consent applications with the County of Peterborough, and all 5 are boundary adjustments or lot additions, as they're also known. This particular one, the severed parcel is almost an acre, 0.82 of an acre. The retained parcel is just over 1 acre in size. The purpose of this one, there was a previous consent in 2004 that created the small rural residential lot, of which a portion of it is going to be added back into the originating rural lot. There's 2 outbuildings on the portion that is being added back to the rural lot that the owner of the larger parcel wishes to utilize, from my understanding, primarily for the keeping of some personal hunting dogs. So that's the purpose of this one. We have comments of no concern from Peterborough Public Health, Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge Gas, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. Generally, I'm in support of the application as per my planning report. The amendment specifically deals with once the two outbuildings are returned to the larger lot, there's some deficient setbacks, so it's dealing with that, and as well as a deficient lot frontage on the retained parcel for the rural residential zone.
Thank you.
Those are my comments.
Madam Clerk, I understand we have nobody registered to speak to this one.
That is correct.
Okay, I'll ask council if they have any questions. I don't see any. Moved. Thank you. Seconded by Anita. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, item number 2.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. This is C12-21. This is for 288 Antelope Trail. The severed parcel in this case is particularly small. It's only like 0.1 of an acre, and the retained parcel is 0.69 of an acre. This one is dealing with an encroachment of a garage from the benefiting lands for the lot addition. It's just a piece coming off of one lot and being added to another to deal with an encroachment. We have comments of no concern again from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge Gas, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. As outlined in my report, again, I'm in support of this application. And yeah, the zoning bylaw amendment basically just deals with changing the zoning of the severed parcel to match that of the benefiting lands, as well as I believe it was a deficient lot frontage and area for the on the retained parcel.
Thank you. And I understand, Madam Clerk, there's nobody registered for this one either.
That's correct.
Okay, I'll ask council. Thank you. Second question. Let's get a mover or seconder, and then okay, Jerry will second it. Anita has a comment. Okay.
Yeah, what's the access to the, I guess, the 28? $98, is there a driveway that comes off as kind of a circular driveway? How is that property accessed?
So there appears to be a right of way coming down from Antelope Trail for the benefiting lands you're talking about now, right? Yeah. So, and then the severed parcel has direct access to Antelope Trail. Like 2886 has its own existing entrance. It's 2898 Antelope Trail. And it appears to me, and this is only from the GIS that I'm looking at it, that it crosses, there's a driveway that crosses on in behind 2886, 2890 and 2894. And then it also has waterfront access, right? Because it's directly abutting onto the lake. So boat access.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a seconder. All those in favor? That's carried. Application number 3.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is C13-21. This is at 2325 Miller Road. The severed parcel is about 4.9 acres in size, about 5 acres. The retained parcel is about 32 acres. This particular application deals with at 1786 Youngs Point Road. They're currently discussing and getting ready to prepare a zoning bylaw amendment application and a site plan approval application. They're modifying slightly their existing home catering business to include a vineyard and some winemaking. So the severed parcel is going to be used as agricultural lands for that vineyard. And that's sort of the first step. We haven't yet received application for the benefiting lands for the lot addition, as I'm talking about, for their change of operation or change of use of that land. We're strictly dealing at this point with adding some agricultural lands to that existing rural residential lot. We have comments of no concern from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge Gas, and Peterborough Public Health. And the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority has commented that future development on these subject lands may require ORCA permits depending on where the development is. The zoning amendment specifically allows for a reduced minimum lot area for both the severed and retained parcels. And also we're recognizing the road frontage of the rural residential lot at 1786 Youngs Point Road as the applicable road frontage for the lot addition.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, I understand that we have the owners applicant on the line, Donald and Margaret Wood.
That is correct.
Okay, I wonder if either of you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, this is Don Wood. It's fairly straightforward. I don't really have anything further to add to what was already said. So,
Okay, thank you. I'll turn it over to council. Any questions from council? Not seeing any. Thank you. Anita will move. Donna will second. All those in favor? That's approved. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the item number 4.
So thank you, Your Worship. This is C14-21. This is part lot 27, concession 10 in the Smith Ward. Again, as I say, it's another lot addition for under county's application B88-20 that's been granted provisional consent. The severed parcel in this case is 46 acres, and with the retained parcel being about 1.33 acres. Essentially, the purpose of this one is that they're adding that large severed parcel to the abutting or adjacent existing farm operation, just making the farm operation larger, and the retained parcel will then become just a rural residential lot. We have comments again of no concern from the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge Gas, and Peterborough Public Health. And the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority has commented that future development on the subject lands may require ORCA permits. For this one, we are just changing the zoning for the retained parcel to a rural residential. And my report generally, again, is in favor of this application.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I understand we have some people on the line. First, we have the applicant, Christine Williamson and Louise Norma Smith. Do either of you have any comments to make? You may be muted.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hi,
they
this
can't
is
hear
Royce Williamson speaking for Christine. Can you hear me?
you. Yeah, who's speaking?
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I think we get this going. The lot that will end up as a severed lot is backed up by a wetland. We can't use it for cattle grazing or any other purpose based on where it is. And we have an active agricultural operation, and we're using the balance of the land that is to be added to the home farm already. So this seemed like a better use.
Okay, thank you. And who was that who just? You okay? You got it? Okay. So then we have Carrie Dowdy, I believe, is on the line.
Yes, good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm a neighbor of the property, the subject property. Traditionally, because it's in the influence area of our gravel operations, I'd be concerned about the creation of a residential lot. But because we've been involved with this property prior, when the smaller lot was created, we as a compromise, we had a registered on title, a notice that was registered on title on the, both on the severed and the retained parcel when I guess it's address 2062, that lot was created many years ago. So I'm satisfied that our interest is as well protected, and I'm not objecting, and I'm in support of the application that's before you tonight. But just in case there was any questions based on some previous objections I'd had, I wanted to clarify it, that we'd add the this registration on title that would notify any future purchasers that there are active and proposed aggregate operations in the neighborhood. So that's just, I just wanted to share those comments with council prior to their voting on the application.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, any comments, questions? Jerry?
Move it.
Second, Jerry? All those in favor? Carry, approved. Thank you. And we'll go to the
Thank
last
you.
item. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last, number 5.
All right, thank you, your worship. This is part lot 15, concession 5 in Smith. This is application or zoning bylaw amendment C15-21. Sorry, I'm just looking, I thought we had also had a municipal address on here, but I'm not seeing it. But anyway, so this one, the severed parcel is about 0.5 acres with the retained parcels about 96 acres. This is rounding out an existing rural residential lot. There's 2 abutting rural residential lots to this smaller one. So you can imagine there's sort of a small laneway from the larger farm parcel between this lot and the next adjacent rural residential lot. So by doing this lot addition, it's actually going to make the existing rural residential lot the same size or close to the same size as the next 2 lots, and then abut right next up to them. It sort of makes them make more sense. They're more proportionally sized, and that's all that it's doing. It's rounding out an existing smaller rural residential lot. We have comments of no concern again from Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board, Enbridge Gas, and the Autonomy Region Conservation Authority. Again, my report is in favor of this application. And in terms of the zoning amendment itself, all we're doing is allowing for a reduced lot area for the rural residential zone, as well as the agricultural exception 593 allows for reduced lot frontage for the retained parcel. It's not quite big enough.
Okay. Thank you. I understand that we have a neighbor on the line, Lynn Bueller.
No, actually, it doesn't appear that she's here. She's not in attendance.
Okay, we have nobody to speak to this. Any questions, council? No? Move it. Thank you, Donna. Seconded by Anita. All those in favor? Great. Okay, colleagues, I think this is an opportune time to take a quick 5-minute break if we could, and we will resume in 5 minutes. Thank you. Our next section is the question period. Madam Clerk, are there any questions?
There are no questions.
Thank you. We'll move on to staff reports then. And the first one is the work plans, and we'll handle this the way we have in the past. I'll read the section and then I'll look to my counselors to see if they have any questions. And if they do, I'll recognize them, and then Janice can quarterback which staff member is going to respond back. So the first one is the Chief Administrative Officer work plan. Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know, maybe Donna will be speaking to this later, but I'm just wondering how the link is being used. I see the bus going through Lakefield when I go to work, so I'm just curious to know whether the numbers are increasing or staying kind of the same.
You asking me? I have it in my portfolio.
Okay, so we'll deal with that at the portfolio. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, Donna?
Yes, through you to Janice, it's not specifically mentioned in your work plan, Janice, but I was just wondering when and if we're going back to a live person answering the telephone when we dial in.
That's something, Donna, as we're kind of working our way through how we would be ultimately bringing staff back into the office, and at some point being back to full staff, we would be talking about that piece and how we're going to move forward with the live answer. We're still not at full staff capacity in the office.
Okay, and could we have an updated, because we have a lot of new staff, and if we need to speak to somebody specifically, I don't have some of the extension numbers of our new people. And I always have to bug Angie to help me with that. So I wonder, could we get a new list of people that are in the office and their extensions?
Yeah, I believe an updated list was sent not that long ago, but for sure we can update that again. I would encourage you, if it's a question that you would be going through the managers to discuss any questions that you have.
Okay, so whatever you can provide would be great.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that? No, we'll move then to the Clerk's Department, Corporate and Community Service Clerk's Department.
No, building and planning.
I had that down below. Building and planning. Anybody have a question? Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. On Q4, it looks like Rob's going to be working on the backyard hen bylaw. And I want to know what council thinks about this. Do we want to proceed with this now or leave it? I don't see a lot of appetite for it.
I've already mentioned that I didn't think we should move forward with it.
I agree as well. I think that we should maybe just take it right off the work plan.
And I haven't seen an app, to use your term, on council side or the people who want them. So I think it's a move.
So perhaps we can remove it off the work plan, Rob.
It's done.
Thank you.
Okay, so on building and planning?
Yes.
Yep. Go ahead.
The second section on the first page, Rob, zoning bylaw, housekeeping amendment, definition updates, lot coverage related to decks, etc. I have a couple of people calling me to see. I see it says it's moved to Q4. Do you think you'll be able to accomplish that in Q4?
Yeah, it'll be a bit of a challenge. We've been struggling in terms, as noted in the report, with some recruitment, right? So we had managed to recruit a development approvals technician, and that person has decided to go back to school. So that was going to give us the bandwidth to carry on with some of these nice to haves, right? These improvements to things that we're currently doing, but it's a challenge just to do those things that are mandatory and have timeframes stamped to them. So we'll do our best Donna, to get that done in the next quarter, but what has to take precedent is, are those things that are time bound and
I understand. Thank you.
Nobody else has. I have a question. It's on the chart that you provided, Rob. So if I'm looking at the 2021 compared to 2020, this is the fees on the revenues. So if by doing my math correctly, our year-over-year fee increase is 39.6%, so from 440,000 to 438,000. But our construction value is only up 11%. Since we base our fees, at least until later this meeting, on construction value, I'm just trying to understand why the construction value goes up 11% and the fees go up 40%. And I'm sure there's a very simple explanation that I'm not reading it correctly.
Yeah, no, I'm struggling to give you, a good explanation as to why that is, because.
Why
it
don't
is-
we just,
yeah,
when you get a chance, it doesn't have to be right now.
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
send an email to everybody, because
Sure.
I asked it in open council to send it to all of us.
I can do that.
Yeah, okay. Should have I should have told you that. in advance. Yes, sure.
I'm looking at the dashboard now. Are we looking at everything to do with building and planning or just?
I was going to do that separate, but we can do it right now because there is a connection between the two.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the pre-consultation process. And the agreement that we have be provided to the county of Peterborough. And it has been. And I'm wondering where it sits. And I'm asking Andy the question.
Well, we've got the new planning committee that's been established. I will ask specifically at the next meeting why they haven't proceeded with that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
On that dashboard or in the planning one, could you give us a bit of an update on the software, the planning software, and when that's going to be up and live?
Yeah, I can. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I think council's aware that this is a new product for cloud permit. It is up and running and live and available to be live. Certainly as it relates to applications for minor variances. And as they build up their experience, they'll add different features to it. We're essentially set to go. We can implement it. There's a bit of training that's required of my staff, and my staff have been trained, and I think are reasonably competent in its use. We also have to train the commenting agencies, and we did some training with the Conservation Authority, because they're going to be receiving applications through this system now as opposed to through email. So that we'll have to do things redundantly. And again, because of the, a few of the staffing challenges, I'm a little bit reluctant to go live without having that other body that we were counting on. But it is essentially ready to go. Right? So
as soon as you regularize the complement, you're ready to.
yeah,
launch.
absolutely. That's where we're at with it.
Yes, go ahead.
This is with regards to your third quarter. Of that $33 million total construction value year to date 2021, are those mostly residential, or is there some industrial or commercial? Because that's, that's a healthy number.
For
but-
sure. Yeah. The majority is typically always residential. And in this context, there's one of the 20 unit apartments, the Triple T's building in the Lilacs is included in that. And that was several $1 million. So that would have contributed quite a bit.
And since we're on this subject, if I could raise the issue with colleagues, in the covering report from Janice, she had a suggestion about following up from the report that generates the dashboard as to whether or not we wanted to hire a consultant to do a follow-up report, or whether we're comfortable that we've made the progress necessary. Anybody want to comment on that? Donna?
I think I'm comfortable to leave things as they are right now. Like Janice suggested, that we have made good progress in the building and planning department.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing nods around the table.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we receive it, we are going to be receiving the recommendation that we do not proceed with the follow-up. Everybody's comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that takes care of building and planning. And so now we go to the clerk's department, corporate and community service clerk's department. Any questions, Donna?
Yes, I have a question for Tanya and a question for Angela. Tanya, I know you have done a report on local government week later, and I was going to ask this question, so I'll ask it right now. When you're advertising local government week, have you included the fact to the schools that we have those special little books that you ordered?
Yes, you had suggested we order some books that you found on Municipal World, and we ordered 3 copies. So in the email sent to the schools, we did discuss that they can use that book. And after it goes out, then I'm thinking that it will be housed in the libraries.
Okay. You ordered 3, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And then can I do Angela's question?
Go ahead.
Thanks. Angie, you said that you're going to really be tired of this question. The Ennismore CIP, detailed design, it's in progress.
Yes, that is correct, Donna. Leisha's helping me with that, and we've got a first draft of the RFP ready. So with any luck, we can get that issued in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, thank you.
Sherry?
I'm wondering if we have a date with regards to the Lakeville campground when we're going to get a report back to council.
I'll maybe just let Janice take that question.
Thank you.
No, we haven't put forward a specific date. We have begun our discussions with the Conservation Authority and certainly are hopeful to have something back to council before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. I was just interested to know if you have the numbers for the community improvement plan in terms of what our take-up has been from our businesses, numbers and dollars.
Yeah, sure thing. Leisha's really pleased with the uptake on the program. To date, in 2021, we've had 26 applications. So in terms of value, that's about $160,000 in CIP value. Total project value, so this is the actual amount that the business will contribute, is about 315,000. So definitely lots of interest and people are benefiting from the program.
And the take-up has included all parts of the township?
Yes, so we've got applications in all of the wards. And really we've had lots of different applications. Some have been for facade improvements, some landscaping, some signage. So just kind of everything from soup to nuts.
Okay, and the second question was if there's any kind of an update on the, I guess it could wait to Public Works, but it's on this one too, on the clear bag program. And how are we getting lots of complaints? So people seem to be, how it's going?
No, it's going very well. Hillary's actually on the line as well. If there's some specific questions, but uptake has been really good. We have the odd one that's still not being picked up. And we do have oops stickers. So the contractor puts the oops sticker on it to let them know that they need to use the clear bag. But overall, we're pretty pleased. We staffed up in anticipation we were going to have a lot of calls and we really didn't have many.
Anything else on the clerk's permit? Yes, Anita.
Oh, I just wanted to comment. I know that we have a report from Strexer Harrop at the end with regards to the communications and marketing. I watch channel 11 quite a bit, and I see the commercials on there, and also on the radio I hear the commercials. So I think the word is getting out there with regards to this particular program. But I know that we have a report under the new business as well. I just wanted to comment that I see it and hear it.
Good. Okay, nothing more on that. We'll go to financial services. Anybody have anything on financial services? Do not see anything. Next up, I have the fire department. Any comments on the fire department? Will there be any? Okay, so now we'll move on to the human resources work plan. Anything there? I had a quick question and probably to Janice. Under recruitment, we are in the process of a number of recruitments, and I'm just in general terms, are we having some success with that, or is it are we being challenged?
It definitely is a challenge, but we are persisting, and we do eventually find some qualified folks. So yeah, it is a very challenging environment to be recruiting in, though. I think, as we've discussed at a few meetings, for a lot of different reasons, the COVID-19 impacts on people's attitudes around work. I think just the level of competition we have for the types of positions we need, and the supply of those qualified people in the municipal sector. So for sure it is challenging, but yes, we are having some success.
And the second question under human resources, because it's listed under this, the customer service survey that was being planned for the fourth quarter, and specifically to get some feedback on building and planning, it had been originally planned to be done earlier, and it got pushed back into the fourth quarter. How are we coming on that? Are we going to be able to do it?
Yes, for sure. We are working on that. We actually launched it early in September, I believe, but ran into some fairly significant technical difficulties that we're working our way through in terms of kind of misrepresentation, I guess, of responses on the survey. So we're working our way through that technically and hope to get it back up and running in short order.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on human resources? Not seeing any. We'll move on to library services. Any questions? Okay. We are in Parks and Rec. Any questions in Parks and Rec? Yes, Sherry.
Thank you through you. The Scout building looks like it's coming along. And I'm just curious, do we have some idea about a date when the police will move in?
There is no firm date, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. There is no firm date on when they're going to be moving in, but we have been talking to them about what they prefer. And we've really been cautious just because the finishing date has changed a little bit, and we're certainly hoping it'll be done in October. And then as soon as we know when the police are moving in, we will let council know.
Okay, thank you.
Donna?
That's through you to Mike. Mike, I'm looking on page 2 where you're talking about I just want to thank you for moving on, setting up the meeting of user groups and stakeholders for January of 2022 regarding the ICE allocation policy. So thanks for getting that in there. And also thank you for your fast action. We've had quite a few tree issues on the long weekend, and thanks for getting on to that early today.
You're very welcome. Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's not a problem at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This sort of piggybacks on Donna's comment, because I had received a call a couple of weeks ago from a gentleman that's involved with, I guess they're called senior men's hockey or something, with regards to ice allocation. I had suggested to him at the time that if he wanted to make a delegation to council, but it sounds like maybe he's been in touch with Mike. I don't know for certain, but I think it's important that all user groups have the opportunity to speak and give input to the ice allocation policy?
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, he has reached out to me and assured him that there will be an opportunity in the start of the new year to participate in an open discussion and go through the policy, the draft policy, and get everybody's input.
Anything else? The last one we have is public works. Okay, sure.
Thank you, through you. I'm just curious about Water Street, and are we moving closer to a date when we can start reconstruction?
Yes, so as we reported, I believe it was in August, we're working our way through the studies that are required, in particular the archaeological study, in order to be able to finalize the detailed design so that then we can get the tender ready to be issued. It would be anticipated that that would be issued in order to get work started next year, next spring.
Thank you.
Okay, Donna?
Yes, thank you. I see that Tyndall Bay Road hasn't been started yet, and I was under the impression that it was in fairly bad condition. I just wondered if Rick thought it was going to be completed this year.
Can you hear me there?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, no, we're hoping to start it this year, but the paving won't be done till next year. But it's not in that bad a shape. It's still gonna be the same idea. We're down in McConnell now doing that drainage down at the bottom in McConnell Drive there. We've been short-staffed, a couple of people we lost, so it's been a challenge this year.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
For you, I'm just wondering if we might be able to get Janice's microphone a little bit better rather than sounding like she's talking through. She's got a couple of reports coming up and hearing them.
Janice, is there any way you can get nearer to the microphone or go to a different microphone?
Is that any better?
You're still, you're still muffled.
Okay, I'm not sure what else I can do from my computer here. I perhaps would just try and speak up and speak slowly. Does that help?
Yeah, that's a little better now, but
Okay.
okay, we're gonna move on then. Well, first of all, we need a motion to receive and including the recommendation to not move forward with. Pardon?
The hens as well.
Oh, and okay, so we're not proceeding with the hens bylaw. We're not going to move ahead with a consultant's follow-up consultant's report, and we're going to receive the work. And that will be moved by Anita, seconded by Sherry. All those in favor, carry. It's on my written agenda. Oh, no, that was sent to us separately. We're going to give Sherry just a minute to bring that out. Okay, so just take a second here. Yeah, okay, good. So we're going to move on to the next staff report, which is the draft vaccine policy, and I'll ask Janice to speak to it.
If you can just give me 1 sec, I'm going to try and another set of headphones to see if it helps, okay?
Okay, does that sound work any better for you guys?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so I think as everybody knows, we've been managing our response to the COVID-19 pandemic for the last 19 or 20 months, and everybody's been through a lot of change. We as the township have been very diligent in our efforts to implement and adhere to all government directives and public health directives and recommendations to make sure that we're protecting our workplaces and our residents and doing our best to help keep our economy strong, and to make sure that we can continue to offer the services, the essential services that we deliver to the community. So right now we're faced with the next change is the consideration of a vaccination policy. So a number of things that play into that, of course, under occupational health and safety, we are required to take every precaution reasonable to protect our employees. Government regulation does require us to follow the advice and recommendations of the Chief Medical Officer of Health or our Regional Medical Officer of Health. And we do have a recommendation from the Peterborough Public Health Medical Officer of Health that we put in place a vaccination policy for all of our employees. So that's what we have to consider before us tonight. So what I thought I would do is just run quickly through how the policy would actually play out. So the requirements as set out in the policy are that all employees, volunteers, council members, and board and committee members would be required to provide proof of being fully vaccinated by October 20th of this year. If we do receive the documentation that provides that verification of being fully vaccinated, then there's really no further action required by those folks. If we receive documentation that verifies a medical or human rights related, and in this case, that's restricted to creed or religion exemption, then those individuals would be exempt from the requirement for vaccine, but would be required to participate on an ongoing basis in the antigen testing program and utilize any additional PPE as may be required. So if neither of those things happen, then the next step would be that employees who haven't verified that either they're fully vaccinated or exempt. Sorry, I'm just having some technical difficulties. Is it moving? Is that better? Okay, hopefully this will be better and avoid some background noise. So for any staff, volunteers, or members of council, board, and committees who cannot prove or do not prove that they're fully vaccinated or have a verified exemption, then they would be required to undergo an online education program to help them understand about the vaccines and why we would be putting these requirements in place. Then they would be required to provide proof of first dose by October 29th and second dose by November 29th. So if we don't have the proof of first dose by October 29th, the proposed policy is recommending that we would require people to participate for a time-limited period in the antigen testing program. The proposed policy is suggesting that would last for a maximum of 3 months, But of course, that can be set at any duration that council feels is appropriate. If at the end of that limited time period, the individual is still not compliant with the policy, i.e. vaccinated, then they would be put on a 30-day unpaid leave. And if following that 30 days, they are still not compliant, then the next step would be termination of their employment with the township. If the individual at the October 29th date, if they had not submitted verification of their first dose of vaccination and they refused the testing program, then at that point they would be put directly on the 30-day unpaid leave. And then again, if after that 30-day period they still are not in compliance, would move to the step of termination of employment.
Okay, is anything else, Janice?
No, so that's essentially how the draft policy is laid out for council's consideration and feedback.
Okay. Yes, Deputy Mayor Senes.
Thank you, through you. I don't think any of us, when we started this term, would have contemplated in our wildest fantasies that we'd be ending up dealing with a vaccine policy such as what's before us today, but here we are. I would like you to refer to the vaccine policy that has been sent to us, and on number 8, paragraph 3, I would like to propose an amendment that the effective date, which is now showing January 29th, be changed to November 29th. We'd be giving 30 days for testing as a sign of good faith to give time to comply. And I'm looking for someone to second that amendment.
Anita will second that. Okay. Donna, comment?
I would like to, when we vote on that, I would like to ask for a recorded vote because I think it's very important. And I had one other question, so could I ask that now?
Yep.
This is number 1, Janice, submit proof of being fully vaccinated by October 20th. Do people need to come into the office with their vaccine certificates, or how do you plan on people providing that to you?
Yes, we would ask that people do provide their documentation to us directly.
And do we have to leave it with you or just show it to somebody?
It would be, we would do what we need to do with it, and then we would return it to the person. So no, you do not have to leave it with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I was going through the county report, it looks like the county as well, it has, is developing or has passed a mandatory vaccination policy. And I think it's long-term care, retirement homes. I mean, everybody pretty much is being required now, unless they're exempt in some way. And I do agree with the shortened timeline. I think that, as an example, we did 1.5 years of the clear bag media, letting people know, and they still weren't getting it. So I think that, we don't want to drag this out like the clear bag thing. Just get her done, because it's gonna be required regardless. So I think it's shorten the timeline. I totally agree with it.
Okay, so what we have is a motion which would be to adopt the policy as presented with the amendment of the date in paragraph 8 or section 8, paragraph 3, where it says January 29th, it will say November the 29th. That's what we have before us. I'm going to call the vote in just a second, but just before we do, I'm going to make my own comment. I want to thank Janice and your team for doing a lot of hard work to put together this recommendation to council. So thank you for that. I also think it would be appropriate at this time to thank all of our staff for what they've been through for the last 20 months during all of COVID, regardless of what department that you've worked in or what role you've been playing. Everybody's been pulling together to make sure that our township can continue to provide the services to our ratepayers that they've come to expect. I think I speak for all of council, and I'm sure I do, to thank everybody for the hard work and effort and energy that they've put through since the onset of COVID. Thank you, and I will call the vote, and Madam Clerk, if you would read the roll.
Councillor Locke,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Senes,
Yes.
Councillor Ballantyne,
Yes.
Councillor Heron. Motion is carried.
Thank you, colleagues. Okay, as soon as I drove my way through here, we will go on to our next report, which is on the building, the restructuring of our building fees. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. To provide some background, Performance Concept Consultings, or PCC, pardon me, had presented their final report to Council in the Township of Selwyn on July the 14th, 2020, for the comprehensive services review of the Building and Planning Department. The consultant's report review resulted in a recommendation that the current permit fee structure based on a percentage of construction value or a value-based approach should be amended to a fee structure based on a standardized cost per area, cost per square foot, cost per square meter of construction, as this approach would fall within what PCC considered to be a best practice approach across Ontario. This report then is providing a response to Council's resolution and is intended to provide a clear and concise approach to the Township of Selwyn Building Department permit fee structure amendment to address the Council's resolution. Looking at our service delivery costs, the township's stated goal is, as it relates to permit fee levels, is to collect 100% of the costs associated with delivering the service. To achieve this goal, we need to generate a value of $589,700. And it's from this figure that we generated the proposed building fee values. This figure accounts for an increased expense, which is described further in the report. Looking at our calculation methodology and fee rationale, a study was undertaken by the building department to assess the historical data related to the collected building permit fees from the 2018, 2019, and 2020 year. As a result of this, the average of the total collected building permit fees for these 3 years was $561,534.43. Additionally, we considered the total area of building construction resulting from this 3-year period. And from this yearly average from the yearly average revenue of $561,543.43 and 987,723.67 square feet, we could assess the individual categories of construction to determine a percentage of contribution made from each category of construction towards the total building permit fee revenue collected. The result of all the collected data is reflected in a category of total fee construction percentages. If you could refer to Appendix A, Figure 1, we have a chart there that indicates this. The data contained within Appendix A, Figure 1 indicates the percentage of total fee contributions made by each category of construction for the previously noted 3 years. Council will note that the proposed fee structure has been broken down into institutional, commercial, and industrial categories, ICI. And we further broke this down into subcategories based on group classification as identified in the Ontario Building Code. In addition, we've also provided a fee structure that accounts for the level of finished for each proposed structure. When developing the appropriate square foot figure to be charged within each category, we use the aforementioned collected history, while also attempting to find values that would reasonably align with the fees charged by our comparator municipalities and those surrounding us, bearing in mind that a mix or development type they experience and the cost of recovery goals that our surrounding peers have may be different from what ours is. To this end, we've attached a proposed Schedule A amendment to bylaw number 2014-008 to represent the changes to the fee structure. You could refer to Appendix B, Figure 1, Schedule A to bylaw number 2014-008 for the detailed information. The values contained within the proposed Schedule A have been used for the cost comparative studies that are presented further in this report. So looking at what we're proposing, we did some comparative studies with our direct comparators, and to further demonstrate the advantages of the proposed changes to the fee structure. We have completed multiple fee studies for various categories of construction that represent the current fee structure pricing versus the proposed fee structure pricing and that of our local peers and direct comparators. It should be noted that our direct comparators, as described as the Township of Springwater, the Town of Pelham, Township of Clearview, Township of Wilmot, and the Town of Greater Napanee, have all been previously identified as such due to their demographics closely resembling that of the Township of Selwyn, i.e. the project growth rate, population density, etc. These studies, if you could refer to Appendix C, Figure 1 through 6, are the detailed sample studies based on our building classifications and types. And then in addition to that, we did the same comparative studies with our local peers. And it has been noted earlier in the report, the level of service provided by each municipality and their cost recovery objectives are not known to us. These differences in service level and cost recovery may account for the differences in the fee rates. Our local peers are identified as the Township of Durrow-Dummer, Township of North Kawartha, Autonomy South Monaghan, Municipality of Trent Lakes, the Township of Cavan Monaghan, Township of Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, Township of Asphodel, Norwood, and the City of Peterborough, respectively. If you could refer to Appendix D, Figure 1 through 6 for the detailed sample studies based on these building classifications and types. The result of these comparison studies of both the 5 typical direct comparative municipalities and the 8 local peers indicate that our proposed fee structure is reasonable and in line with what is collected by demographically similar municipalities as well as our local peers. For the most part, the fees generated by the proposed structure are slightly above or below the average of the fees generated by the municipalities in each grouping. As a result of this, we are confident that the fees collected using the proposed structure will generate sufficient funds to offset the anticipated costs associated with delivering the service in 2022, but also that revenue should be monitored throughout the year and a review of the fee be conducted in the 4th quarter of 2022 in an effort to establish whether or not modifications to the fee structure are warranted for the implementation in 2023. As a result, the next steps the proposed changes are consistent with the recommendations that were made from the Performance Concepts Consulting report in achieving a standardized cost per area best practice approach in a manner that is intended to be revenue neutral. The endorsement of the proposed fee schedule is recommended for the purposes of moving forward with the public meeting as required by Section 7(6) of the Building Code Act to be held on November 9th, 2021. And if you have any questions with regards to anything in the report, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much. Questions, Anita?
This isn't a question, it's a comment. I remember back in the day when the person was trying to determine the cost of building a house, it was $125 a foot if it was a vinyl sided or $150 a foot if it was a brick sided. So I think going by what you're suggesting here, I think is the right way to go. It probably would make things a whole lot easier, especially where you've taken into account the different types of structures and you know, whether it's commercial or industrial or residential or whatever. So I think it's the right way to go.
Donna?
Yes, through you. This is just a comment. It's an excellent report and it was well presented. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure.
I have a question with regards to process. How are the interested parties that took part in the survey that made the recommendations to the consultant that this is the way we should go? How are they going to be approached to have them come to the public meeting? Do we have a list of those parties?
Yeah, so I think what we've done typically through Mr. Chair is we've certainly sent information to the local Home Builders Association so that they're aware and they can let all of their officials, sorry, all of their members know. In addition to that, we can certainly invite or let any of the participants in the committee that participated, we can let them know individually as well, right? Send them an email and say, hey, we're now at the process of implementing some of the recommendations. And if you're interested, we'll be debating the merits of this application or this issue on November 9th.
And would that include agents that work on behalf of different residents in our township?
Yeah, I mean,
Robert,
sure.
Just to jump in, sorry, we do have an email list of past applicants and agents and builders.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've got a good email list.
All right. I just wanted to make sure that everyone's included because it's going to be a good news story for a bunch of them and maybe not so much for others.
Sure, fair enough. Thank you.
I just also wanted to compliment the work that was done. When I did a bit of a chart here for myself and looking at some of the comparables and some of the main categories, and we become far more competitive than we were. If you take new construction, a custom home, using the example that you said, we were at 90.93. So one drops to 51.06. That compares to 50.74 with our comparators and 54.80 with our locals. So it's putting us in a competitive position. If you look at the same thing, if you look at our docks and our garage, which is where a lot of people, I know there's not big volumes in terms of money, but there is in terms of number of people doing it. It's making us more competitive as well. So that's a positive thing. And I agree with Sherry, the importance of communicating this to the public as we move forward. A lot of people showed a lot of interest in this, and we want to let them know that council is listening and that we've responded to it. So the idea is that you will be coming back to us, right?
Yes, through you, if that's what you wish. Of course we will.
That's the plan. Yeah. Yeah. But we're not approving the fee schedule until you come back, but we're endorsing the concept. So somebody want to move that? Okay, Anita, second by Terry. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now on to Gord's report on fireworks.
Good evening, members of council and Mayor Mitchell, through you tonight. That seems that we've had some issues and some concerns in Lakefield from a fireworks, a professional fireworks display in the park that the trailer park put on at the beach in Lakefield. So I know Sherry heard quite a bit, and some major concerns that were coming up. So a lot of this report mirrors an earlier one Andrew and I did that, like the fireworks, it's going to be difficult for all aspects of it to get rid of. But there are not that many major shows that do go on in the township, and the ones that are, they're usually, I think, 2 that are private and on private property, and again, there's a fair bit of advanced information and info to the neighborhood. But because it was on township property, it come a fairly major concern. So we did come up with some options for council to consider, and as if you've read the report, that the number 1 is a status quo, leave it as it is, and anything that needs a required approval, they recommended that they definitely need to put out advanced information to residents if it's going to happen. The second one was completely prohibit fireworks on all township property. And then the third would be, and probably was the best, because again, fireworks, that has always been part of our community. Even as myself as a kid, I remember going down down to the park at the arena there, some major fireworks that, again, if there's a permit that needs to be taken out, a professional permit that maybe be taken out on those approved holiday weekends through Canada Day, say Polar Fest, Shamrock, and any of those federal or provincial holidays through the season. But saying that we don't get that many all the time, but again, any permit that goes out that needs a professional qualification where myself or Andrew have to sign off on in order for these processes to go on, that they definitely have to have advanced information out to the residents, well ahead of time, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, so they can literally, take those precautions to their family members, or mostly pets. And I know our dog goes crazy here when we did it ourselves here with the kids when they're younger. So I'll let council decide that. Again, for any municipality, it's pretty tough to outlaw any fireworks. We could, you could say that no fireworks are allowed anywhere in the township for sale and that, but literally we are in cottage country and they can buy those pretty well anywhere in Ontario and bring them here for their own personal use. So again, this is pretty well subject to the big boys and the big noise and the big lights. So I'll let council you guys can make your decision on that, and then we can implement that.
Thank you, Chief. Sherry?
Thank you, and thank you, Chief, for bringing forward the report. Although we can't regulate fireworks on private property because fireworks are legal, I think we should be leading by example. And I believe that we should go with number 3, which allows the fireworks on our property subject to receiving the approvals on holiday weekends only. And that we try to give advance notice to the public when we are going to have one of these fireworks displays.
And community events as well? So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So long weekends and community events?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to clarify, so the display fireworks are the big bangs, the big fireworks displays. It doesn't include residential fireworks. I do agree with option number 3. I just have a question. So if the campground wanted to put on the display fireworks, then they would have to go through all this information, the approvals only on holiday weekends, Canada Day, township community events, etc. So the Lakefield campground fireworks displays would fall under this, or if they just had the smaller, I guess, the smaller types of fireworks, would they need a permit for that as well?
At this point, Anita, I think the campground for the last 3 years, they've collected funds from the campers there and hired like the professionals to come in and do it. Again, they would have to follow, and they can do this on any one of the weekends, but they decided whatever they did it that one day, and they did come in and they had the proper paperwork and everything else, but they could decide if everybody brings in all the store-bought and stuff. But again, too, is that something we frown on? But I've really never seen that in any other campground. Usually the campgrounds around here, and again, there's some of the big ones like Pioneer Park, and they let off a beautiful scene, and it's usually on not Canada Day, but Labor Day weekend. So, and again, a lot of them didn't happen this year. I would say Lakefield Campground, they've got to follow, if number 3 goes in there, they got to follow that.
If I could just add to that, the campground rules do not allow fireworks. So the personal fireworks that you're asking about would not be allowed under the campground's own rules. So the display that they have put on has been that the display fireworks with all the required approvals over the last number of years.
I think the fireworks display that really generated the most, I guess, complaints or comments would have been the one that, I live like almost 2 miles away, and it sounded like it was in my backyard. So I can see why people would have been quite upset, especially regarding the animals being petrified and whatnot. But I do like number 3 as an option.
Donna?
Yes, I like number 3 as the option as well. I just wanted to say that it seems like every weekend in Ennismore anyway, that somebody is doing a fireworks display in their backyard. And I have received numerous calls about it and emails all throughout the summer, but I understand that we can't really control that. So number 3 is the best option.
Okay, and Jerry.
Thank you, through you. And I agree with Chief when he said, we live in cottage country. And as I've said a million times, somewhere between Monday and Monday, every single day from June till now, somebody's on holidays. So they're shooting these things off. You won't catch me if you can. I'm going to blast a bunch off and that's that. So but I also do believe that if there wasn't such a stink about that Lakefield Park, we may not have heard as much about it either this year with their fireworks. But I agree with option 3 as well.
Moved by Sherry, second by Anita. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, colleagues. And our last book before we get into the consent is a follow-up report, Rob, on 44 Bridge Street.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The council will recall Robin Jenkins did appear before council at the last meeting and did ask for council's relief from council for putting up asphalt surface on the parking lot. The result of that meeting was that council asked that I speak with her and see whether or not there's some opportunity for her to save some money, because that seemed to be her hesitancy was related to the costs associated with the asphalt. Following council's request, I did review whether or not there's an opportunity for some cost savings. And in this context, I did establish that the parking spaces that were depicted on the site plan as she'd provided it would allow for an addition to the structure, which she was contemplating doing in the future. And so I put forward the notion that she could construct a smaller parking area, 9 spaces versus 12 in the interim, until such time as she put the addition on. At that point, we would amend the site plan and she could add 3 spots at that point, and that would perhaps save her some money. Whether or not it was sufficient, I didn't know. So ultimately, Mr. Chair, I've made a recommendation to council that we confirm the requirement that the subject property be developed in accordance with the minimum standards as detailed in our guidelines, and that we advise Ms. Jenkins that she has the option to achieve cost savings by developing the site based on current building footprint, which requires 9 parking spaces.
Thank you, Rob. Comments? Yes, Don?
Through you, Rob, thank you very much for doing this. And do you know that if she's going to follow through with the 9 spaces?
No, I have not received confirmation that she would do that. I just presented it as an option. Yeah, I think I'm not sure she would take us up on that, but that is definitely an option that she has.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, through you. So after the last meeting, social media is a wonderful thing, but it can also come back and harm you too. So I was accused of having a fit the last meeting. I was accused of saying that I wanted to pave rural areas. I just want to go on record that that was incorrect information. And if you're going to do it right. So I am in favor of paving urban areas, the way that we had discussed and fought in here to do. I do apologize to my council members for having what was called a fit, but that wasn't a fit. You know, a fit is when you go take to social media to try to usurp the rules. When you say that you agree with black and white rules, except for a particular property, that's a fit. And that's the problem I find with the participation ribbon. No scoreboard generation that we've got these days, that I think this is going to come back more and more. And I think if people do their due diligence before they purchase property, we'll be in a better shape.
Thank you for the report and following up with the applicant, Rob. I appreciate it. I think she said that she can't open up so long as if she doesn't have the paved parking lot, she's not able to open, and it's obviously a financial burden, but I think you did try to help the situation out, and hopefully she can get her 9 parking spaces so that she can open up.
Do we have a recommendation, colleagues? Does somebody want to move it? Jerry, second it? Nita? All those in favor? Carry. Okay, that gets us through the municipal officers and staff reports, and we now go to our consent agenda. And so I'm going to ask colleagues to deal with the correspondence report item number 3 separately. So we can do, why don't we go through, do everything, and then we'll do that last, and I'll leave for that one. Okay, so other than that one, is anybody got, okay, so Anita?
5F, the active insurance claims.
Frank, okay, yes, Jerry?
5H and 7, number 3.
5H and 7-3. Okay, yes, Don?
7, number 6.
7-6. Okay, and I'm going to ask for 5G. So that, so we have 5F, G and H, and 7-3 and 7-6. So let's go first to 5F. Anita.
If one is discussing specific things.
Okay, so noted, we'll put that, we'll take that up in close. The next item was one I raised in G, and I just wanted to confirm, I think we talked about this when we first were looking at it, but that the data will be collected and available by ward when we get the results.
Yes, we did note that would be done this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And then we're on to 5H.
Yes, thank you, through you. I just wanted to comment that it's good to see that this tower has been relocated away from residences and the school, and I hope it gets rid of some of the gaps in Bridge North.
Okay, good. So then the next one, sorry for flipping back and forth here, is 7-3. So that's the county report number 3. And that was you? Yeah.
I'm sure you've all read the report that Casper wrote with regards to the Blue Box transition. First producers are going to be taking over for collecting recyclables. And I think I mentioned before that I'm the chair of the Waste Management Committee at the county. And I just wanted to bring to your attention that a couple of things that are not going to be collected as recyclables by these people is from campgrounds and from businesses. So this is something we're going to have to grapple with at the county level and at the township level, because if they're not collecting, we're going to have to. I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay, thanks, Sherry. And then we had one other item, which was 7.6.
Yes, thank you. This is the petition that was submitted to county council from residents of Fothergill Island in Ennismore. And they also sent me a personal copy of the petition. So I felt responsible for getting an answer as to what county council decided to do about this. And so I contacted the deputy mayor and she said it was not pulled for discussion. So today I contacted the CAO, Sheridan Graham, and she assured me that a letter would be crafted and sent to the people on Fothergill, explaining the situation and the potential problems of doing this leaf and yard pickup.
Follow up to Donna's comment there, because I had a call from a guy today, actually. So I'll put it to my county council folk. What is the cost of that program? If you guys could find out, I'd love to know what it's costing the ratepayers. Thank you.
Okay, no other items, so I'll entertain a motion to receive everything except 6.3. Okay, Donna, Anita, all in favor? Carrie, and I'll turn the chair over to the deputy mayor.
Let me just pull it up. Yeah, capital gains on primary residence. So the mayor has identified that he has a conflict of interest on that particular item. And so I'm looking for someone to receive it. Anita and Jerry, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. You can get the mayor back.
Thank you. We have no petitions and we have portfolio updates. So first of all, Councillor Ballantyne.
Yes, thank you very much. We had a meeting of the library board last week, and the question was asked about our fundraising, and we're actually above the targets we were in previous years, when we basically relied on book sales and thrift stores. But it has to be noted that 3,000 of those fundraising dollars were donated by the Lions Club, and we couldn't expect that every year, but hopefully in 2022, we can get back to our normal fundraising activities, but we have done very well, and we're starting that online silent auction on November the 1st. No recent rec meeting. I already thanked our rec department for getting on to some disturbing tree issues in Ennismore with graffiti painted on it. So that's in the process of being rectified. The transportation, I didn't get an update this week, but this is from September the 27th to October the 1st. Route 31, the Curve Lake Lakefield was 92 riders. Route 32, Ennismore and Bridge North, 55. Now this was a slight decline but it states that the Trent bus passes continue to be the most common fares for both routes, and that's really proving to be productive for that program. I think that's all my updates.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor.
I have no report.
Okay. Public Works.
Thank you. Through you. Almost all the hockey and skating groups have started out the arenas. The rentals at the campgrounds has ended, and they're getting ready to winterize everything there. And I guess we saw that email about the box around the tree that'll be taken out as well. And some of the Tai Chi groups are back renting spaces, cards in the seniors group. We didn't have a trail meeting because there wasn't a whole lot to report on, so we did it via email. As far as the roads go, they're, as Rick said, Tyndall Bay, they're hoping to get to that. They finished off a couple other streets with the micro surfacing. Although it is interesting to note, people are screaming blue murder because I know the 15th line hasn't been done yet, but the Miller group lost 35 days of rain this year that they try to make up. So a great example is they microsurfaced my road, and it took them 3 days because they'd start and then it wasn't drying. So what should have taken a day to get done, it took them 3 because they can only do so much at a time. So they will get to it. It's just a matter of time. Plus, we're not their only customer, so it's a difficult thing for them. That's all for me.
Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to the Heritage Committee, letters have been mailed out to the property owners of the buildings that have been put forward for inclusion on the Heritage Register. And committee and staff are hosting open houses on October 20th from 2 to 4 p.m. and 5 to 7 p.m. by pre-registration. I don't know how many people we've had getting back to us yet.
Yeah, we have about 4 members of the public and then some council members that have replied.
Great, thank you. And I was reading in the AMO dispatch that we get in our email that the province is providing up to $270 million this year to long-term care homes to increase staffing levels by 4,000 new long-term care staff across the province. So I think that's good news, especially since long-term care facilities were the ones that were particularly hardest hit by COVID. And I know that a lot of nursing staff, from what I've heard, I don't work in long-term care, but I know that a lot of staff are at burnout or very near burnout. So I think this added incentive hopefully will, maybe bring some of the retired nurses out of retirement, or that they'll be able to increase the staffing levels, because I know that long-term care staffing levels are really challenging. And then I also noticed on the Peterborough Examiner website with regards to Ennismore, it's called From Gravel to Green. I think it happened on October 1st. It said shovels in hand, a group of local students turned young green thumbs, gathered a formal gravel pit in Ennismore to plant hundreds of trees, part of a collaborative rehab effort between Autonomy Conservation, KPR, and a handful of community partners committed to environmental stewardship. And so these are grade 11 and 12 students from public high schools, including Crestwood, Tass, Peterborough Alternative, PCBS, and they planted white spruces, white cedars, and red and white pines to revitalize the Boundary Road site in Selwyn Township. So that was kind of nice to have that information put out there, and good work on the students and everybody involved in this planting of trees. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. My report, very brief. As I think everybody saw, we had the announcement that Roma is going to be virtual again this year, unfortunately. And I should mention, it'll be our last opportunity to make delegations to this government before the election. So you may want to consider that. I don't think we've got a request for delegations yet, but because I think it's a little bit early, but you may want to think about that. I just wanted to mention from the ORCA perspective, we stood down from our level 1 low water response, given register. So that, we did that last week. In terms of public health, our vaccine rates, they're published every week, so they're 6 days out of date now because they're published on Wednesday, but we were up to 85.5 for 12 and over for a single dose and over almost 81% for 12 and over for 2 doses. Just important to remember, and Dr. Gimmel, who is our acting medical officer of health, talked about this, said that's a percentage of the eligible population, not a percentage of the population, because there's a whole host of people who aren't eligible. So when you factor those in, the percentage of the overall population is much less than that. And that's why it's important that everybody that is eligible gets vaccinated to provide the maximum coverage. There was media reports. I haven't seen anything other than media reports that Pfizer is submitting a request for approval for vaccines for people 5 to 12 or 5 to 11, I guess it would be. So that will, when approval comes, that will spur another effort on the part of public health. It's time to get a lot of those age cohorts vaccinated as quickly as possible. And at the same time, there's also now we're entering flu season. Last year, there wasn't very much of a flu season because that was one of the positive unintended consequences of the COVID. But this time they're predicting that we will have, so there will be vaccines for that as well. And our case counts remain relatively low. We've had a couple of outbreaks in schools that public health is managing, but our caseload has been steady. We're getting, one day we'll get 1 or 2 cases, the next day we'll get 3 or 4. So the Delta variant is in our community and it does circulate. So anyways, that's my report. And we'll go to other new and unfinished business. And I believe we have a report on a multimedia campaign.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Adrian is just providing a monthly report outlining some statistics on the campaign, and happy to take any questions, but really it's just to let you know what we're doing and how we're doing, and you'll get this report over the next few months.
Alex, questions? Okay, do we have to receive that? Or?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, Donna and Anita, all those in favor? Okay, I guess we'll do the bylaws first, and then we'll go into closed. Okay, so we have the 5 bylaws. There's only 4 of them here. No, okay, they're not in order. Okay, so we have the 5 bylaws for the zoning that we passed. We're accepting a resignation from the EDBC. We have our ICP transfer agreement in respect of the money being invested in our front lobby. We have an easement agreement, and we have the vaccination policy. Okay, moved by Anita, seconded by Jerry. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, confirmed bylaw. Close and then confirm afterwards. Okay. Okay, second by Jerry. All those in favor? Okay, colleagues, we will reassemble in the next room. Thank you, everybody.